this isn't a robotaxi approval. A lot of people reporting, oh, they can operate robotaxis now. Not true. This is sort of like a rideshare permit approval. This is a big first step, ultimately, eventually being able to offer fully autonomous robotaxi rides in California.
Welcome to the Gigacast. My name is Gav, here today with Sawyer and Farzad. Omar here in spirit. And today we're going to be talking about a bunch of tech, specifically hitting on some new robotaxi approvals in California, as well as free FSD trials in China. But before we get to all of that, there is something that we have to address, the elephant in the room, and that is the hurtling insults at Elon Musk coming from some on the left that seem to be a little bit in spite of maybe their own values and country. So we just have to talk about this. Farzad, I know you've already spoken about this at length, so I'd love to turn it over to you.
Yeah, very, very briefly. I think for those that missed it, there's been a lot of back and forth. Tim Walz, the former vice president candidate for the Democrat Party, was cheering the Tesla stock going down to whatever it was, sort of, showing his phone. Like, that's why I downloaded, the stock so I can get a little bit of a boost in it during the day. We can go ahead and do you want to play it?
Yeah, go ahead. On my phone, I know some of you know this on the iPhone. They've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day.
Yeah.
225 and dropping.
Yeah, so we can stop it there. But I think this is one of the unfortunate situations that we're in now, is that with Elon Musk taking on politics, it's sort of taken this weird form where it's now okay to celebrate tens of thousands of Tesla employees' compensation going down. And as a former employee, this rubs me really really wrong way. And I understand this politics, but I think it's extremely counterproductive, especially from the party that supposedly, I guess, holds climate at a very high standard, and that they want to really advance sustainable transport and sustainable energy. This seems extremely counterproductive. I had a whole rant on my channel if anyone's interested, and I'm sure many aren't. But if you want to hear more about that from me, that's it. But it's just a very unfortunate thing that we're in right now. Really quite sad.
Yeah, quickly, I'll just say, obviously, rooting against an innovative American company, not exactly a winning strategy. I think 11,000 people work at Tesla's Gigacast factory. I think another 20,000+ work at Tesla's Fremont factory. Most of them are probably leaning on the liberal side too. So you're just really shitting, and they get, obviously, as you said, stock compensation for their work. 87% of Tesla is owned by people other than Elon Musk. And then obviously Tesla's, I think, the 12th largest company in the S&P 500. So anyone that owns the S&P 500 is, right there, indirectly invested in Tesla. So I don't see how this is a winning strategy for Tim or the Democrats, but there you go. That's the climate we're in.
Yeah, a couple of quick thoughts. First off, is Tim Walz, does he do like stand-up comedy now? It looked like he had like a whole show going there on stage and everything. He had the mic. I was ready for Eric Andre to come out next. And so that was pretty interesting to me. I was just like, I don't know, is this guy doing like his tour? And then just like you guys said right there, and this is the point that's going around, Elon Musk, 300 billion, 200 billion, it doesn't matter. It's more money than you can spend an entire lifetime. The largest people affected is every single person who has a 401k, right, in America, which is over 50% of America, who that dropping affects them. So kind of celebrating maybe the wrong things here, but I get
I don't think people realize, like, most of Elon's net worth now is not Tesla. Like, most of it is SpaceX. His SpaceX is worth $150 billion now. His Tesla, this is excluding, the compensation package, legal case, those options, just the 13% that Elon currently owns. That's worth less than $100 billion. So if Tesla stock were to go to zero, Elon would still be worth like $200 billion. So I don't see how it's Tesla stock dropping is all of a sudden going to be a huge material change for Elon net worth wise. But
you're pushing away the other 87% of the people that own Tesla. It's a very like you said. It's again, this is. I do think there is a backfire side to this. Now, Evan, there was a chart that I shared a few days ago. I don't know if you can pull it up or if we can do a query. I did a Google trend analysis of buy Tesla versus sell Tesla. This is for the last 5 years. And if you click on that image, what's very interesting about the latest stuff that's going on, the interest for buy Tesla is the highest it's been in the last 5 years. Now, sell Tesla is also the highest it's been in the last 5 years. But you can also see there is a giant gap between the buy Tesla and the sell Tesla interest. So what's interesting to think about here, if you're like a fan of the company or trying to understand if all this political noise is creating a bad thing for the company or a good thing for the company, so far, at least from search interest, it seems like it's one of those like old things where if you're just opening up awareness for a thing, people are going to become curious and start looking into it. We'll see that potentially reflected in the Q1 or Q2 deliveries for the company, Q1 or Q2 deliveries, maybe later in the year. But I think that's one thing to track for those that are interested in following the story is a lot of this could be backfiring, but we'll see. And the other very interesting thing is like now you're getting an entire side of the political spectrum that was vehemently against Tesla. Now they're celebrating buying the cars. Interesting, right? So, and the people on the left are probably going to keep buying electric vehicles in, maybe not Teslas, maybe other brands, but now the right side of the political spectrum are going all in with electric vehicles. And then the middle, what I call the 60, 70, 80% of America, they're just going to make the pragmatic choice, which is best bang for your buck. Does it do everything I'm looking for it to do it in a really good way? I think Tesla's extremely well positioned from that perspective. So in a crazy way, maybe this is actually advancing the advent of sustainable transport even further because you're kind of bringing along people that have been on the fence, right? So I don't know. It's such a fascinating thing to track.
I still am so curious to see if do Republicans actually go out and buy Tesla vehicles? Is this actually going to happen? It's one thing to see a few big commentators on Fox News and even Trump doing the White House event, but it's a whole nother thing to see the big influx of Republican and conservative buyers. So we'll see.
Yeah. We should do a road trip to the deep south and then see in the next in 12
person
months,
interviews.
Everything is exactly. Everything's just Teslas. That would be amazing.
That would be wild.
Yeah, that'd be wild.
I guess on the bright side, maybe a whole bunch more people are now adding Tesla to their watch list and putting it on their screens. And maybe they're seeing the stock on a daily basis, right? Shout out, Tim. You're driving awareness. So that's good. We'll take that.
I've covered Tesla for daily for 5 years now. It is never boring. Every time you think something might not happen, a whole new thing is thrown at. That's a narrative. It's just.
And the craziest thing is we for today's chat, we were getting ready. We were like, what should we talk about? And we threw out this Tim thing. Sawyer's like, what do you mean? So even Sawyer, the king of news, was 2 seconds behind what was going on because of everything that's going on. It's crazy. It's an absolute
hard to keep up with everything. Yeah.
Yeah. We can transition over to some of these other subjects, but the last thing that I wanted to touch on, it was a tweet from, maybe it was you, Farzad, or from Omar about the 69D chess game that's happening here. Was that from yourself?
Yeah, it was. I don't know, Evan, if you can find this. I think I may have posted this last night. All the violence we're seeing, the very unfortunate violence that we're seeing against Tesla showrooms, Tesla cars, which I think any reasonable person would condemn very, very strongly. In a weird way, that's creating this sort of environment where now you have your Elon Musk. That was one of them. The violence against Teslas will be one of the most epic backfires in history is, my prediction. I don't think these folks are realizing just how mainstream they are making the brand Elon and all his companies. Because now you're getting, again, Elon's getting front face attention on places like Fox News, which are traditionally very conservative networks. But now he's getting a feature, I feel 2 to 3 times a week on that. And then it's almost like, wow, look at all these bad things that are happening. But it's bringing a brand new base that would have never considered your company before to potentially consider it. So we'll see. Again, that's a prediction. We're tracking the Google trends. There it is. This whole time, Tesla investors wanted Tesla to advertise, and it turns out a few Molotov cocktails from some lunatics would give the brand 10,000 times the exposure any ad could. 69D chess confirmed. I mean, obviously kind of a joke there, but yeah, it's we'll see. We'll see if this thesis holds out or not. It's going to be one of those very fascinating things to track this year.
It's unfortunate that it's taking conservatives, Molotov cocktails and all this vandalism and violence against Tesla for them to buy a Tesla. The Teslas have already been the best products for years now. So, I mean, they're not really doing it because they're saying it's the best product now, but it's been the best product for years. They didn't used to say this 2 years ago. So this is this is all just a political show.
Yeah, it's the extreme 10% going at it. But I think that the attention, that's the curious thing about this. The attention is what is really very fun to track, because that's when the people that are on neither side of the political spectrum will try to look at it at face value and try to make a calculation on if it's something that makes sense. And my prediction is some of them will go on the website, they'll pull up the Model 3, they'll see it's $300 a month lease, they'll be like, holy crap, I had no idea. And that starts the conversion potentially. We'll see. Again, we'll see it in these year sales numbers if it actually pans out.
One of the big pieces of news that maybe kind of got swept under the rug a little bit by all this political stuff happening today was Tesla getting their first permit, right, in California for unmanned robotaxi. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I reached out to the California Public Utilities Commission yesterday, and they got back to me with a long email. And so basically, this isn't a robotaxi approval. A lot of people reporting, oh, they can operate robotaxis now. Not true. But this is sort of like a rideshare permit approval. And it's a big first step. Like, this is a big first step to ultimately eventually being able to offer fully autonomous robotaxi rides in California. So how this will go down is, first, Tesla will now be able to operate vehicles that they own using drivers that are Tesla employees. And Tesla will initially only transport Tesla employees on a prearranged basis and in Tesla-owned vehicles. The Model Y, which I think they'll probably use, that Tesla will use, or rather, there will be a driver in the driver's seat, sort of under supervision. And then I believe Tesla will transition to using the same permit to transport people in the general public like us on a prearranged basis. But you won't be able to pay for it. You won't pay for it. This will be a free service, I believe, initially. And then Tesla will notify the CPUC when it transitions to transporting members of the public. But Tesla isn't yet allowed to accept money for rides, I think. They need the Transportation Network Company permit for that, the TNC. So Tesla can't fully operate autonomous cars yet there, whether that's the Model Y, Model 3, or Cybercab, whatever. And they can't accept money for the rides yet, but that will come later, obviously. And then, after they do these initial tests. And Tesla doesn't possess the authority from the DMV yet to fully offer those, Cybercab-like rides. But they'll get there. This is a great first step. There's other hurdles they got to get to be able to offer a service like a Waymo service. But nonetheless, this is exciting, and this likely means in the coming months, we'll likely start to see Tesla employees be able to take rides in a rideshare, robotaxi, whatever you want to call it, in California. So,
do we know? Yeah. Do we know how? Can you see my dog? He has allergies. He's like dying over there. He does this every spring that comes around. My little Chihuahua, Moe. Okay, so do we know how long it's going to take to go from those initial rides to paid robotaxi? Are we aware of the timeline? No.
We don't really know how long it takes to get the other permits, for the TNC permits. I guess it might just depend how well these initial rides go with the employees and then the general public. But Tesla won't be taking money for it. They'll just be doing it for free, I think, initially. But yeah, still some questions up in the air for sure.
I think, Evan, this would be an interesting thing to ask Grok. How long did it take for Waymo to go from their initial private rides, like non-fare rides, to the first fare rides? Like, how long in California, how long in their first jurisdiction, how long did that take? Because that might give us a good understanding. I think the interesting thing to track here is that the way California is going to roll, and this is why a federal guideline for autonomous vehicles is so helpful. Because in California, you're going to get their own sort of thing. In Texas, you're going to get their own thing. So Texas, Tesla has said June this year, they start driverless rides, which is going to be probably very similar to what California is doing. They're going to start with non-fare. They're going to start with employees.
So on the Q1 earnings call, Elon said that there wouldn't be a driver in the driver's seat. I don't think that's going to be the case. And I know, I think Franz said,
would do that. Yeah.
And Franz, I know on the Jay Leno sort of interview, he said there'd be cybercabs. It doesn't sound like it's going to be cybercabs. It sounds like it's going to be Model Ys with drivers supervising in the driver's seat initially, at least initially.
Yeah. And I think, it's just Elon par for the course, taking it really, really to the extreme, sort of vision. Let's see. To calculate the time from not charging to charging in California, Waymo's free public rides under the Trusted Tester program were active by mid-2021, and then charging began in late August or early September 2023. So it took about 26 months to go from no... when it says charging, is that like charging energy or charging a fare?
I think fair.
To charging for them in California involves perfect. Yeah, so 26 months. So that's actually a very good proxy. So
I think it'll be quicker this time, though.
Yeah, it feels
I
like
think
they've
so,
already
too.
laid the groundwork, right?
Yeah.
And
think so,
Tesla,
too.
like, at least initially, Waymo didn't have a very big fleet. Tesla has like millions of vehicles on the road. Of course, they're just going to be company-owned vehicles initially, like we said. But I think it'll be quicker.
And I
Waymo's-
wonder too. And I wonder too, Evan, if you want to do a follow-up query, can you ask what was the limiting factor for the 26 months to not be shorter? Was it lack of data, lack of what? Like, I'm curious to see, like, why?
My guess is they were the first mover, so people didn't know how it would go. They want to take it slow, but now that they know the Waymo stuff works, I don't know.
I think size of fleet is probably the biggest one. It's like they weren't confident they had enough data, and that's to your point. That's where Tesla has the ability to, instead of doing 10 Waymos in the first year and then 100, they can just add as many as they want to the thing. So driverless testing permit. They weren't in a rush. The trusted server phase was about refining the tech, collecting real world data, improving rider experience. Okay, and so these are the things. What's very interesting to think about there is that these are all the things Tesla has been doing with the FSD suite for the last 6-7 years. As they've rolled it out as a level 2 system, which means that the driver still needs to pay attention. But in reality, all that data they're gathering from the drivers with their interventions and the feedback and so on and so forth, that's what Waymo had to have done for the last 2 years. And in theory, Tesla's going to enter the market with all of that already baked in. And once they flip the switch, they would have a system that's just as good, if not better than Waymo from the get-go, right? With a fleet that's 100 to 1,000 times bigger. So,
I believe Tesla filed for this TCP approval in November of last year. So they just got it approved. So that's like what, 5 months, 4 months, whatever.
That's a great sign.
Yeah. We'll see.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of curiosity to it. I would assume that two things. One, like you guys said, they weren't in a rush to charge for them, which probably makes sense. They were still feeling out the technology and improving it. And then two, so new, people were probably still freaked out by these cars, right? Driving around by themselves and everything. And that just all got laid down. I think you can move a lot quicker. And then probably politicians needed time to study all those different areas and approvals and different pieces like that. So yeah, with all the groundwork laid, do you think maybe it's realistic to say half the time potentially to do something of that sort? Cut 26 months maybe down to 13?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a very reasonable thing to think. I mean, again, the very curious thing here is going to be Tesla's ability, if the state allows them to leverage their entire fleet or leverage 1 hour's worth of Model Y production to build out a fleet that is going to be an order of magnitude bigger than Waymo's, right? So in California specifically. And if they're allowed to do that, in theory, they should arrive. You know, like if you assume that FSD V14, whatever this is going to be for their robotaxi thing, if you assume the miles per intervention are somewhere in the realm close to Waymo's, like let's say 10,000 miles of between interventions or 15,000 miles. I think Waymo's at 17,000. I think that's the number from Waymo.
Yeah,
is that right?
I know they're doing 150,000 paid trips per week now.
Okay.
But
so if they can show that really good data up front with a really large fleet, I mean, they could just be like, yo, turn us on. We already have the data. It's been a month. Let's go, right? But in the best case scenario, it might take a fourth of the time, a fifth of the time. But I think half the time is probably the most reasonable.
I do want to give a shout out to Sawyer for doing the outreach directly to the government there. And
I reached out. They emailed me back in less than 6 minutes with that whole thing, which tells me they had it ready to go because other people were reaching out.
They were following your tweets.
Do you often, when something gets cleared or there's a permit or something, do you often reach out and actually get answers?
What I hate about the mainstream media is they say something has happened or been approved, but they don't link to it. They don't say, hey, here's the link to the permit. And that's what happened yesterday. So I was like, I'm just going to reach out directly, see if they get back to me. And I asked them, can you give me the link? And that's exactly what they did. Say, here's the link. And then here's what the permit allows and it doesn't allow. They gave me way more than I was expecting, which is great. But clearly they were expecting and they wanted to make it clear what this permit allowed and didn't allow because they didn't want any sort of misinterpretation out in the public arena. So they were ready with responses.
Very cool. Very cool. Any other thoughts, comments on the topic here, Farzad?
It's just very exciting. I mean, I think this is going to this is the groundwork for robotaxi at scale in the United States. And I traveled in the last week or two. We went to St. Petersburg, Florida. We for the Maverick Mind on my channel, we interviewed Kathy Wood from ARK Invest in person.
That was awesome, by the way.
Thank you, man. We have a full one dropping today, and one of the things that really finally crystallized in my mind why this is such a huge deal, this whole robotaxi, specifically from Tesla and their vision solution. I was down there with Larry Goldberg, who's the host of Maverick Mind, and he is a huge fan of Uber Premier. Okay, what is Uber Premier? It is you get the best cars. You usually get like the driver that's like, it's like a chauffeur, like a legit chauffeur experience. It's very comfortable, but it's like 5 times the price of Uber X. So, for
how much is that per month?
Wait, is it a monthly subscription or is it each time you order?
Per ride.
It's like Uber Black.
I don't even use Uber that much. So that's why I'm asking.
So Uber X. So the perfect thing. So Uber X from our location to the airport was like $25 or something. Premier was like 110. Okay,
wow.
$110. The reason why this is such a huge deal is the robotaxi network, the Tesla network, with Cybercab, with Model Y, with Model X, you're going to get a premier level service, which is a really, really nice car with privacy, a screen, sound system, comfortable seating, right? Privacy, which is better than the Uber Premier at a price that's going to be less than the Uber X.
I'm checking real quick to see if I'm in Miami right now. I have to go to the airport later today.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm seeing right now they've got like 16,000 options now, but I do see Premier as well and Premier SUV. My Uber X to the airport would be $29, $30, and my Uber Premier would be $57 right
57.
now. So it's about double the price on what they're giving me a little bit.
So what kind of car do you get with the Premier? Like,
it says luxury rides with highly rated drivers, which I don't really know what the difference is from that. I think they just took away. Oh, okay. They just took away Uber Black. They just renamed Uber Black as Uber Premier. It's literally the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. And what's probably very likely in Miami is that the supply of Premier vehicles is much higher than St. Petersburg.
Probably the highest in the country. Yeah.
Right. But the point still stands is that you would be getting double the price of the experience for a per mile cost that's going to be less than Uber X because there's no driver. The per unit cost of a Cybercab, which is optimized for a 1 to 2 person seating, is $25,000 or less because of the camera system they've set up and the Tesla's manufacturing expertise and the scale. I think that finally like helped me conceptualize and help me communicate this point as clearly as possible, at least for people that have used Uber. Which brings up the conversation, which we've talked about before. What is the point of an Uber when you have that kind of competitive advantage? Anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't realize that they just replaced the terminology for those two, but yeah, curious. Okay, let's roll into another big topic that's going on right now, which is we touched on China a couple of weeks ago, and now they're offering these free FSD trials in China, which I think is huge for a country with such a population that is very actively buying Teslas. Sawyer, would you be able to lead us off on this thought?
Yeah, so on March 17th, 2 days ago, Tesla launched free FSD trials in China for the first time ever, and they're going to run until April 16th. And this is a big deal because in North America, we've seen many free trials, and people do take advantage of it. It's 30 days. They get to try out FSD, and most people don't own FSD, especially in China, where the historical take rate, I think, has been like 1 or 2%, if not lower, because the FSD hasn't been available. But now that FSD is actually launched, FSD supervised, that is, launched in China, and the people are taking tons of videos of it, capturing their experience. There's already been, I think, close to like 7 or 8 billion views of Tesla FSD videos across all Chinese social media platforms and whatnot. So I'm curious to see how Tesla China owners react to FSD. Pretty much all of them haven't tried it. So, because they never bought it. There was no reason to. FSD took forever to arrive there, but now it's finally there. So I'm curious to see what the take rate is after the free trial ends, and do more people buy Tesla just because of what they're seeing on social media or not there. There isn't a demand issue in China. Clearly, there isn't the same issue that's going on out, in Europe and in America and whatnot. People don't really care about the American politics in China, clearly. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the take rate is. It's been terrible historically, so you'd think it would go up after this free trial.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you guys. My baby's. I'm at home today, and my baby's having a tough day right now. The interesting thing about the China discussion, which we've touched on before, was China. The population is quite a bit more tech savvy, more tech forward, especially when it comes to their vehicles. They have the domestic brands they have in China really excel in technology, especially compared to most American brands outside of Tesla with GM and Ford. They haven't really done a great job really highlighting their tech or developing their tech. And so from that perspective, FSD is like the most technologically forward thing you can put in a car, which is a fully self-driving vehicle, which gives your time back, right? That's ultimate luxury, is you get your time back. So from that perspective, I wouldn't be surprised if China has a much higher take rate than the US. But
Really, you think that high? See, I think it'll be lower.
You think it's going to be lower than the US?
I think the US has been at like 15 or 12%, something like that, in the last couple of years. So you think it'd be higher than that?
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I think it seems to me that the population there seems much more tech forward, and the versions that they're getting from the get in China appear to be significantly better than the versions that the US was getting from the get. So in theory, the penetration of that technology is going to be recognized at a much higher level. And its proliferation from mainstream in social media in China is completely different than what has happened in the United States. How many people in the US don't even know FSD exists? It's like so many people. In China, again, it seems like the culture is different. They go out of their way to embrace technology. Now, I'm really curious to see. And another highlight too is if you look at all the FSD beta tester videos, the test that the Chinese are doing with FSD puts the United States in total shame. Evan, if you can find this one, there's this one gentleman driving his FSD on like a back road somewhere, or along a trail with like a 400-foot cliff, like 10 feet from the road. And this is a dirt road without any guardrails or nothing. And they're testing FSD. I'm like, y'all are crazy, bro. This is amazing. Like this, but that really highlights the power of this technology, is that you don't need any sort of sensors or maps to guide. You just need the outline of a road. And look at that. I mean, again, this is not a huge deal. If you're thinking about it, well, there's a little bit of a curb or whatever. Y'all, this is a car driving itself on a back road in China somewhere. And if it makes a mistake, that car is off the road, right? And like here it goes to the dirt road, and you'll see the same exact thing. So I don't know. This is just very impressive, and I think stuff like this will really drive home the point for a lot of buyers in China.
Wow. I definitely think that it's going to be exciting to see those numbers. Do we get, how do you guys, I know Sawyer, you're constantly posting the insurance numbers in regards to take rate. How are you going to determine that? How long is that going to determine with us?
Well, Tesla doesn't publicly share any numbers. And so really historically, people like Troy Teslike on X have sort of shared their estimates, their numbers. And that's usually the best numbers that we have. What's interesting is, and this is not about FSD, but in China, I think some local, I don't think it's dealers, but like some sort of association is pushing for companies to stop reporting weekly registration numbers. Just due to like, it's bad for competition. It's just bad overall. I think they were arguing. So pretty soon here, it actually might be quite difficult, a lot more difficult to estimate quarterly delivery numbers, because we're not going to get those weekly registration numbers. That's been like one of the biggest reasons that Troy Teslike's numbers and others' numbers have been so accurate in the last couple of years, has been because we got the registration numbers. So if we stop getting those, the quarterly delivery number days are going to be a lot more interesting. That's for sure.
Interesting. Because they have to register, right?
Yeah. And then if you throw in this FSD trial, there's other variables now that could increase demand or, whatever. So we're not going to get a lot of clarity on these things, unfortunately.
So a lot of thoughts here, kind of across the spectrum on this one today. We covered the political side of things. We hit on the robotaxi upcoming events that are happening in California, and kind of, I think, provided some clarity there, because transparently, before I even saw, Sawyer's post and others, like you said, Sawyer, it's just Wall Street Journal notification, Tesla approved first permit, robotaxi here. And so really they don't attach any link or details like that. So I think this was a really good breakdown. And then the China side of things as well. When you wrap it all up, what's funny is like there's still so much happening outside of all these things that we just touched on that people aren't even paying. Like the 3 things we just touched on, people might not even have seen. There might be other things in the Tesla news cycle that they're covering, right?
Yeah, I think, politics around the Tesla narrative is sort of dominating the headlines these days. But it's important to remember, like, Tesla, the company, is still chugging along and innovating. Like, they're not stopping. They're not slowing down. Their Cybercab is just around the corner. Actually, Sandy Monroe from Monroe Live, they put out a great interview with Lars Moravy and Franz. And I kind of wish they squeezed some more information out of those two. But a few months ago, after the Cybercab event, I believe Tesla directly shared with Top Gear that they were aiming for the Cybercab. They were aiming for 5.5 miles per kilowatt hour and roughly a range of 200 miles with the small battery pack to keep, costs low. But in this new interview, around 5 months later, Tesla now says, and this is the VP of vehicle engineering saying this is not just some low-level employee. He's saying that Tesla with the Cybercab is aiming to have close to 300 miles of real-world range with the battery pack smaller than 50 kilowatt hours, which would translate to roughly an industry-leading 6 miles per kilowatt hour, which I know Lucid is, I think, above 5. They're approaching those numbers with some of their efficiency gains, but obviously it's not going to, a Cybercab with the battery pack smaller than 50 kilowatt hours, 300 miles of range would just be unreal. Super, super efficient and super profitable.
And I think what's interesting about that, I think Lucid's engineering feat with their battery and their drivetrain is truly extremely impressive. The bummer with Lucid is that they can't figure out how to make money doing it. That's a huge problem. With the Tesla equation, the 6 miles per kilowatt hour, I think it's interesting. It should be easier for Tesla to do that because with Lucid, that 5 miles per kilowatt hour is trying to drive a drivetrain that is capable of 1,000 horsepower, that is capable of being a missile, right? Whereas with the Cybercab specifically, that's probably going to be the first Tesla ever that's not really going to have amazing performance, like 0 to 60 in 4, 3, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever. Especially for the form factor and the price, it's going to be tailored for comfortable rides. When you have comfortable rides, the last thing you want is a lot of jerk or fast acceleration or fast deceleration. You want a smooth ride, a predictable ride, something that's easy to manage. And when you have that equation, then the drivetrain doesn't have to be nearly as powerful, nearly as big. And that directly correlates to saved energy. And then when you have that, you can make the battery smaller, which when you make the battery smaller, it makes the car lighter, which makes you use even less energy, which allows you to make the battery even smaller, right? And Tesla has the scale from a sourcing perspective to really drive down the prices of their battery. So I wouldn't be shocked that all of that's what they come up with. I mean, they might get closer to like 270 miles of real world range, maybe 5.5 kilowatt miles per kilowatt hour. But even then, again, the cost per unit of a Cybercab specifically is going to be in the 25, 20, maybe even less range per unit, which sets up Tesla so freaking well for the future. It's
and
Lars
Lars
exciting to follow.
Lars shared that their first prototype builds are going to start this summer, and mass production is going to start in early 2026. That's important because I think a lot of people were saying late 2026, but no, it's going to be in the first quarter. It sounds like maybe Q2 if they're late, but I think Lars said they're not going to be painting this vehicle on the exterior, but they figured out some sort of corrosion thing where they don't have to do other. I gotta find the quote because I'm gonna butcher it, but
is it something with the e-coat? Are they just
So they figured out something with the corrosion where they don't have to they can remove more steps in the manufacturing process. They're not gonna have to paint. The only thing that's gonna be painted, I believe, is the door ring, and that'll be laser welded to the vehicle. But everything else, there's going to be no paint on this vehicle. It's just going to be, the color is just going to be infused right with the plastic panels on the exterior, which is going to massively reduce cost. And they won't be plastic all the way through. I'm imagining there's going to be some sort of metal layer in between for safety reasons. But
there you go. The plastic, sweet. We have a big rear casting, big front casting. We have 2 hot stamp door rings that will be laser welded together. The castings aren't even going to be painted on this. We've done work with our materials team. We got corrosion under control. The only area you are going to see some paint is the hot stamped door rings. Yeah. I mean, I think what's so interesting about that is, it's not unprecedented for Tesla to take this approach from a panel perspective. The paint one is sort of a new approach. But if you think back to like the Saturn days when the Saturns used to be made in the US here, those were plastic cars. Those panels were all plastic. So this is not a new methodology. The skipping the paint and having a step to reduce corrosion is the breakthrough. And here's the thing: when I saw the color of the Cybercab, it reminded me of E-coat. Like, it looks like E-coat to me. Like, E-coat is that protective layer that you put on the metal parts of the car before you paint it to help with corrosion and protecting the metal, right? I'm like, this looks like an E-coat car, So we'll see. Dude, it's so cool that we have a company here in the States that's pushing the boundaries with this stuff so much. It's so fun. It's so fun to follow. It really is.
I love the color of the thing. Like, for anyone who hasn't seen the Cybercab in person, the gold does look really nice, actually.
I can't wait.
It's a good color.
Okay, so question. What the hell is this cheaper car next quarter?
Yes, dude, I keep going back and forth in my head on this. Like, on one hand, a stripped down Model Y kind of makes sense in some ways, but on the other hand, it doesn't, because Tesla said that they're going to use aspects of the next generation vehicle platform. So there's no way it's just like remove the screen, remove the leather seats, put in cloth seats. It's no way it's that simple. So I think ultimately I've changed my mind a little bit. I think we're going to see a smaller Model Y like vehicle that uses probably steer by wire, maybe 48 volts, and obviously simplified interior, probably get rid of the rear screen and then maybe put cloth seats in. But it's going to be a smaller vehicle. And I think that's what we'll see. I don't know but the thing is, I think probably in the next few months, we're going to see more of a cheaper Model Y come out. But the one that's smaller will come out like late this year, early 2026. I think both will happen. I don't think it's going to be one or the other.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. Because I think the timing for that cheaper vehicle, and then this is again, like, this is why I came up with that joystick idea. Which, in hindsight now I'm like, wow, that was really, anyway, I'm proud of it. I don't care. For Tesla to be able to get this thing actually sold, you need about, historically speaking, about 6 months of alpha beta testing, road testing, approval, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's the thing. We haven't seen these things on the roads.
Exactly.
So that leads to believe, okay, the first thing will be just maybe a stripped down Y, but later it'll be like a smaller, cheaper Model Y like shaped vehicle.
Yeah. So that's the thing that exactly. It's like you nailed it. We haven't seen it. The only thing, and that's why I'm like, it has to be Cybercab. It has, because we've seen the Cybercab since January.
Dude,
we've seen
no
the Cybercab.
Dude, no,
but
there's no way.
They keep saying no steering wheel, no pedals. I'm like, but come on, are you just lying?
Dude, I don't think it would be a Cybercab. Like, I think for a vehicle that most people are going to want to own, like 90% of car rides are with two people or less, but like 90+% of people want a lot of more space in their car than what the Cybercab offers. It's fine for a robotaxi and services like that.
Right. But
ownership, like in your daily life, I don't know.
It's tough without like a back seat or just some space, right?
Yeah. It does have actually a really big rear trunk, but
you do have the trunk, true.
But
90% of
you have a frunk too?
No frunk in the Cybercab.
90% of point A to point B is one or two people, and if you have a sizable trunk where you can carry luggage, what else do you need, Sawyer? What else do you need?
Dude, I don't see it.
Somewhere to put the
happening.
kids. That isn't the trunk.
If you want the kids, get the Model Y or get the Model 3 or get whatever.
You're saying a Cybercab is coming with a steering wheel or like the joystick you said? Or what was it?
What I'm saying is if they have guided repeatedly to a cheaper vehicle in the second quarter, and if that cheaper vehicle is going to be under the price bracket of the existing, or what were the cheapest vehicles they had when they made that announcement, to me it's like you have to put it on the road to be live. We would have already seen it on the road by the time second quarter comes out, and the only new product we've seen on the road legitimately is Cybercab, right?
But it's only been on private property though, not public.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, I don't know, man. This whole thing is so confusing. Whatever they do.
And they said aspects of the next generation. To me, the Cybercab was like the full generation, next generation.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And that uses the unbox process, which they said wouldn't be used on.
And you guys are both
vehicle.
in favor of the creation of this cheaper vehicle? You think it's smart for the company?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I do worry a little bit about cannibalization. Like if it is just, at least initially, this first vehicle, a stripped down Model Y, I would worry a little bit about like the rear wheel drive not getting as many sales and people going for like the cheaper version. So there could be some downsides in that aspect, but I think ultimately long term, it's not really going to matter once the actual cheaper version comes out and the Cybercab gets going. But in the near term, that potentially could be an issue.
I think this is why Tesla has gone out of their way to create much bigger separation between their product lineup. So they have upscaled the Model Y and the launch edition launched, what, 60 grand? I think it was. Or something.
Well, that's a launch series. Yeah.
60 grand. So like the downscale ones are probably going to be, I don't know, 50 grand, 48 grand, whatever that is. Right. But and the Model 3 got refreshed. They upped the pricing a little bit and again, it created nice separation. That leaves the bottom of the pricing wide open for a truly affordable vehicle. I think Model 3, the cheapest one is 42, 43 right now. So you have a giant gap right now from 43 to 25. There's this void, right? But Sawyer's point is really good. It's like, okay, so if you just made a Model Y launch edition at 60,000, how much can you truly yank out of that car to try to get to that sub 35, sub 30 level, if that's what they're trying to target? Doesn't seem like there is
another issue. Yeah. So the Model 3, the legacy Model Y was roughly the same price as the new Model 3. That's an issue. That's like, that doesn't make much sense. A Model Y, an SUV, should be more expensive, but because the demand wasn't as high as they needed to be, they kind of kept prices the same as the Model 3 sedan. So I think when the non-launch series Model Y comes out, it'll probably be a few $1,000s more expensive than the old legacy Model Y was. That to me makes sense, because it doesn't make sense for the 3 and the Y to continue to be the same price. Yeah, it certainly doesn't. And the S and X are still like just too similar to the new Model 3 and the Y. Like it's a baby Model S with the Model 3. It's a baby Model X now and the Model Y. They're that nice now. They've had that much of a glow up. So it sounds like Lars said they're going to give the S and X some love later this year. I don't really know what that means. I assume a refresh of some sort, but I don't really know. But the S and X are too similar. Like they're not worth the extra $30,000 over the new Y. Like the new Y is so nice. For people who haven't checked it out, go sit in it. It's a big really premium nice glow up. Yeah. So I know it doesn't have air suspension in the Falcon Wing doors, but honestly, most people don't really care about that stuff. So,
and that's not worth 30,000. The Falcon Wing doors, and the even the bigger size. Okay, so how long has the current S and X been live now? I think it's been.
They were introduced in January of 2021, and then production started at least for the Plaid S in like May or June of 21. So it's been like 3-4 years now. 3.5.
This is with the yoke, right? This is like the
latest. Yeah, with the yoke. I got my first ride in one a couple weeks ago in the Plaid S.
First ride, nice.
Well, I've been in a bunch of different Teslas, but I'd never been in the Plaid S.
Nice.
Did it melt your face?
Oh yeah. He did the pedal to the floor, like see how fast I can go.
It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Jerked back against the seat.
I think what Tesla needs, in addition to the 3Y, the more affordable vehicles, and the S and X getting more premium, that's what they should do. They should go up market, not like down market with those.
I agree.
I think the number one thing I hear from Model X owners is like, well, I like the Model Y, but it's too small. I needed a bigger vehicle. I have a bigger family, more space. It has
than a Model Y.
Yeah, bigger than a Model Y. So I think what Tesla should do is introduce a Kia EV9 size, maybe more boxy. I know it's like not the most aerodynamic shape, but something that's just more practical and functional for like a large family, and price it at like $55,000-$60,000 starting. So like $20,000 to $25,000 lower than the order Model X starts. I think that would do so well.
Something with like a third row.
Yeah, like a true 3-row SUV that has more like cargo capacity, is more like for bigger families. The Model Y is great, but if you have like a lot of kids, it's just not going to work, like, because you can't throw in all their luggage on top of that.
Yeah.
So
now my concern there would be, is that going to cannibalize Model Y if you introduce it at that price point?
It might a little, but I would bet the margins would be better. So it might not matter.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not better than the Model X. Like it might cannibalize the Model X a little bit, but honestly, Model S and X sales are already so low right now. They're 50% below their installed production capacity annually right now. That's not a good scenario. I think it's only like 50,000 units a year. That's nothing. That's like 2 or 3% of Tesla's annual revenue that the Model S and X are contributing towards. Like that's
most people that I talk to about the S seem to think that the 3 has caught up enough that, like you guys are saying, the difference in price isn't worth it.
go up market, like put in steer by wire, put in 48 volts, like make it even more premium, do some like other stuff to just make it feel like a premium vehicle.
Like a dream car.
Because the new 3 is so nice, and it's just it's too close to the Model S. It's just too close. I think that's one of the reasons we've seen a big drop in sales.
Yeah, I got into someone's 3 the other day. I was like, oh, is this the S? Like it was like the brand new one. They bought it like a week before. And they're like, no, this is the 3. I was like, oh, wow.
I think with the S and X, it's been almost 4 years since refresh. The Cybertruck has certainly eaten into the S and X sales. There's some cannibalization there. And obviously the 3 and the Y are just so nice now, the refresh versions, that it's too close. So you have all those factors. And now they don't even qualify for the EV credit, the Model X, so because they increased the price. So
and I think they increased the price on purpose to kneecap demand so they can actually go in and retool the line. You know, I think that was a very
demand was so low that they like people that are buying it aren't even that sensitive to a $5,000 price increase. Just do it. Let's save the margins a little bit.
Maybe. Yeah. It's going to be fascinating to see what they do. I think the Cybertruck becoming the actual flagship of the lineup is probably the thing that, in my, the S and the 3 and the Y being close to the S and the X is definitely a something that's making a huge difference. I think Cybertruck becoming the new flagship of the lineup by default means that Tesla has to make a decision on what they want to make the flagship. And if the S and X are the top of the line, then they have to figure out a way to actually make give people a reason to want to buy it over the Cybertruck specifically, right? And then also Roadster. Where the hell is Roadster? Where's Roadster?
Dude, I don't think that's coming until late next year at the earliest.
That doesn't feel like the priority, but probably for good reason, right?
I mean, they won't do more than 5,000 of those, I think, a year. I don't think so.
I keep feeling bad for all the people that plop down 250, and it's just like they're just.
I know. If they just put that into stock, it'd be worth like millions.
They should have made it like put it down for a Tesla, but it's also a money market fund, and it just sits in there and it just makes 4%.
Yeah,
I met someone at the We Robot event that put $250,000 down for a Foundation Series Roadster back in 2017. He was like, "Dude, I shouldn't have done that."
Could put in Tesla. Yeah,
CNBC just reached out.
Is it who reached out?
CNBC. They want to do so they say, "Hey, Sawyer, I'm writing a story on Starlink entering India. I wanted to get your thoughts."
When were you last on CNBC?
Last July, but that show got canceled at 7 p.m. So didn't go on anymore after that.
Get it back on.
I don't think this is a show. I think this is just a story they're writing.
An article.
I don't know.
By the way, I will say I have seen so many Cybertrucks here in Miami. They are everywhere, and most of them are wrapped, which is interesting too.
Yeah, I'll admit Cybertruck demand has not been as strong as I thought it would, even at the current price points, which is I think it's a pricing issue. Obviously, all the political stuff that's happening that kind of doesn't help.
Like, I don't want to get my car keyed, I think the huge Tesla fans and the people that wanted the vehicle, they have it now for the most part. But I think the rear wheel drive needs to come out for like 65-ish or 60,000. And they need to bring down the price of the all wheel drive. $80,000 starting is just too much. If you want FSD or the wheels, you're quickly at a $90,000 truck, which is just like out of reach for most people. So price needs to come down, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I like it. A lot of good points. Sawyer, the newest CNBC contributor, this was a good time.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
hey, man, you're out there doing the research. I encourage everybody, make sure if you haven't, of course, follow Sawyer and Farzad's pages, both on X, YouTube. A lot of great information constantly coming out. If you are watching the Gigacast on YouTube, shout out. We're monetized. Thank you to everybody that's been watching. Make sure you watch this whole video again after this. Go back and watch it again. Keep those watch hours running. Subscribe. I think we're almost at 1,500 subs on there. We love to see it. If you're on X, appreciate you watching on there. Like the video, share it out with your friends, send it to your mother, your father, all your Tesla fans. This has been a great one. Farzad, any other thoughts for this one?
I miss Omar, and knowing that he's not on, he's probably not watching this. So maybe next time, Omar. Maybe next time he'll be on.
He basically told us that.
Yeah, he basically told us that. There's no reason for me to watch it if I'm not on.
Wait, who? Oh gosh, wait, who said that in the past? I'm getting a blast from the past. Oh no, that was this was the Mr. Beast videos with Chris Tyson. I don't know if you remember that, where Chris Tyson was taken off and then they put him on a lie detector for a video that came back and they're like, "Do you watch Mr. Beast videos?" And he's like, "Only the ones that I'm in." And they were like, the lie detector said it's true. And he goes, "Yeah, if I'm not in it, why would I watch it?" Yeah. So, Omar, sorry, you're our Chris Tyson. But not in any of the bad ways. Sawyer, any other comments?
Nothing other than like, obviously politics is dominating the narrative these days, but Tesla continues to innovate, and there's a lot of exciting stuff happening at the company. Hopefully, a lot of the Tesla community, you can focus more and more on that rather than the politics. I know it's hard, but that's what I'm trying to do more and more. I'm trying not to dive too much into politics, but I know that gets the clicks. I know that's what everyone wants to talk about, but
it makes me more bullish on the stock, to be honest, because when stocks, nothing has changed in the underlying tech, but the price is being deflated because of outside factors. That's what I believe Warren Buffett calls a buying opportunity. So yeah, I'm all about it. Excited. This was a great episode. I feel like people that maybe heard something in the media this past week, but didn't fully understand it, you can get a lot more depth by listening to this. We'll be back next week, every single week, the Gigacast. I feel like Rick and Morty, 10 more seasons, 9 more seasons. Yeah, just keep coming. Gigacast forever. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great one.